A team of scientists recently fed the visual data of the Shroud of Turin into a neural network designed to detect deep space signals. They expected the computer to confirm it was a medieval fake. Instead, the machine stopped and flagged a massive anomaly. It detected a mathematically perfect projection of a human body that ignores gravity. This isn't just about religion, this is about a physical impossibility. The data suggests the man in the shroud didn't just pass away, he dematerialized, and the evidence has been hiding in plain sight for 2,000 years. The digital ghost. For years, the narrative was simple. This 14-foot-long cloth was a medieval hoax, a clever painting made to fool the masses in a time of superstition. But here is the catch. When the AI analyzed the chaotic fibers of the linen, it stopped cold. It detected a signal. Beneath the faint, haunting image of the man, the computer found a repeating mathematical symmetry. This is a pattern that no medieval artist could have created. Basically, the AI found a digital ghost locked in the threads. To understand why this is such a game-changer, you have to look at the details. The image on the shroud is unbelievably superficial. It rests only on the very topmost microfibers of the linen threads. We are talking about a depth of just a few hundred nanometers. To put that in perspective, a single human hair is about 80,000 nanometers thick. This image is thinner than a soap bubble. The color does not soak into the cloth like paint, dye, or ink would. If you slice a thread crosswise, the center is pure white. The image sits on top like a scorch mark. There are no brush strokes. There is no directionality. It is more like the fibers themselves were chemically altered by a rapid burst of energy. When the AI looked at this, it did not see art. It saw a data set. The neural network stripped away the noise to find the core truth. What emerged was a field of information. The brightness and darkness of the image followed a precise, predictable rule, almost like a physical law of distance. Imagine a cloth being draped over a body. If you were to paint that, you would use shading to trick the eye, but the shroud does not use shading. The AI confirmed that the intensity of the image corresponds perfectly to the distance between the cloth and the body. The closer the cloth was to the skin, the darker the image. The farther away, the lighter. It is a perfect mathematical map. It gets crazier. The AI detected faint repeating symmetries and ratios throughout the body. These patterns were invisible to the human eye for centuries, buried in the visual noise of the fabric's weave, but the AI saw them clearly. This suggests the image was not created by a human hand touching the cloth. A forger in the Middle Ages would have needed to be a master physicist, a mathematician, and a nanotechnologist to pull this off. They would have had to paint with invisible geometry. The AI essentially proved that the image behaves less like a drawing and more like a projection. The map. Hidden in the scorch. So here is the deal. To really grasp why this AI discovery is freaking everyone out, we have to look at the technology that came before it. The shroud has always been full of strange details that just do not add up. Let's go back to 1898. A lawyer named Secondo Pia takes the very first photograph of the shroud. He is in his darkroom developing the glass plate. He looks at the negative and he almost drops it. In the negative, the faint, blurry image on the cloth suddenly becomes a crystal-clear, positive portrait. The image on the cloth was in effect a photographic negative centuries before photography was even invented. That alone is a detail that should make anyone pause. How do you paint a negative when the concept of a negative does not exist yet? A medieval artist paints what they see. They do not paint the inverted light values of a face so that 500 years later, a camera can reveal the true image. But that was just the warm-up. Fast forward to the 1970s. A team of scientists from the Air Force Academy decided to run a photo of the shroud through a VP8 image analyzer. This was not a toy. This was a piece of hardware used by NASA to map the topography of the Moon and Mars. It turns brightness into height. If you put a normal photograph of a person into a VP8, the result is a mess. The nose sinks into the face. The eyes bulge out. It looks distorted because shadows in photos do not equal depth. But when they put the shroud image into the VP8, it did not distort. It created a perfect, undistorted three-dimensional relief of a human form. The scientists were stunned. The image contained accurate three-dimensional information. The darker parts were physically closer to the cloth, and the lighter parts were farther away. And this is where the AI comes back in. The AI did not just confirm the VP8 results, it refined them. The neural network stripped away the noise of the cloth weave and the burn marks from the fire. What was left was a topographic map of a human body that is anatomically flawless. The crazy part is the data shows that the body passes through the cloth. Let me explain. The image is consistent with a concept called volumetric projection. It is as if the body became radiant for a split second, and that radiation passed through the linen, leaving a scorch mark that recorded the distance. The AI found that this scorch is uniform. It does not penetrate the fibers. It sits on top. Furthermore, the AI analysis suggests that whatever form this image acted in a straight line, completely ignoring gravity. It also analyzed the blood. And get this, it is not paint. It is real human blood, type AB. But the weird thing is that the blood was on the cloth before the image was formed. The AI can see that under the blood stains there is no image. This means the blood soaked in and then the flash happened. If it were a painting, the artist would have had to paint the blood first, then paint the negative image around the blood without overlapping. That is technically impossible. The broken timeline. The AI has effectively taken the painting theory and thrown it out the window. It simply does not fit the data. We are looking at a cloth that acts more like a piece of photographic film that was exposed to a type of radiation we do not usually encounter in nature. But everyone thought the story ended in 1988. That was the year science supposedly drove a stake through the heart of the mystery. 3 separate labs used radiocarbon dating on a sample of the shroud and said it was from the Middle Ages. But almost immediately, things started to get messy, and that is putting it lightly. The sample they used was garbage. Officials cut a small swatch from a single corner of the shroud to minimize damage. But think about it. For centuries, this cloth was held up by its corners. Thousands of hands touched it. More importantly, the shroud survived a massive fire in 1532. A group of nuns patched the damaged areas using a technique called invisible reweaving. A chemist named Raymond Rogers later found that the fibers from the sample corner were chemically different from the main body of the shroud. They were cotton interwoven with linen dyed to match the old cloth. The labs did not date the shroud. They dated a medieval repair patch. It is like testing the age of the Great Pyramid by testing a modern brick used to fix a step. Of course, you are going to get a modern date. Recently, new technology has stepped in. Scientists used wide-angle X-ray scattering to inspect the structural degradation of the flax cellulose. This method looks at how the atoms inside the flax have broken down over time. The results were shocking. The level of decay in the shroud's linen matches fabrics found in Masada, Israel, dating back to 55 AD. Another study used vibrational spectroscopy and came to the same conclusion. The cloth is roughly 2,000 years old. The AI adds another layer to this by cross-referencing the shroud with the Sudarium of Oviedo, a face cloth kept in Spain with a history going back to the 7th century. The AI found that the bloodstains on both cloths match perfectly in shape and blood type. If the Sudarium is older than the Middle Ages, then the shroud must be too. So, the forgery theory requires the forger to be a time traveler with a laser lab. The physics of dematerialization. The computer program ignored all the confusing arguments about dates and old politics and went straight to the science of the cloth itself. When you look at just the facts, the physics tells us this object does not act like a fake painting. Instead, it acts like it was a witness to a huge burst of energy. The main puzzle is simple but shocking. If this is not a painting, then something must have turned the body inside into a blinding flash of light. When a solid body turns into light, we know it cannot be art. We have ruled out paints and dyes because no liquid soaked into the threads. We have ruled out acids and burns because those would destroy the plant fibers. So what is left? It remains the biggest mystery in history. How do you make a perfect 3D picture on a linen sheet without destroying the cloth? The best scientific explanation right now is a special kind of invisible light called ultraviolet radiation. Scientists in Italy found that a very specific type of this light could change the color of the linen exactly like the image on the shroud. It colors only the very top surface of the thread without burning the rest of it. But here is the catch, and it is a big one. To make that image on a cloth the size of a human, you cannot just use a UV lamp. You would need a burst of power equal to 34 trillion watts. To understand how much that is, think about this. That is more power than any searchlight on Earth. It is stronger than powerful lasers used in factories. It requires a pulse of energy that lasts less than 40 billionths of a second. And it has to happen without creating any heat. It is like a nuclear event but made of light instead of fire. If the flash lasted any longer, the cloth would have burned up instantly. If it was any weaker, the image would not have appeared at all. The conditions are so strict that it seems almost impossible. The event had to be perfect. So here is the wild theory that the AI data supports. The body in the shroud did not just decompose, it dematerialized. Some modern physicists have proposed the collapse state theory to explain this phenomenon. They suggest that the body underwent a localized process where its constituent mass was converted directly into energy. Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, tells us that even a microscopic amount of mass contains a staggering amount of energy. If the atoms in a human body were to suddenly decay or transform, it would release a tremendous flash of radiation. The AI detected that this radiation did not explode outward in a sphere as an explosion would. Instead, the image indicates the radiation moved in a perfectly straight line, up and down, perpendicular to gravity. This suggests a strictly controlled, collimated event, almost like a rectilinear projection of matter onto the fabric. Think of it as an event horizon of biology. The body reached a critical state and effectively phase shifted. Crucially, the AI found absolutely no signs of putrefaction. In a typical forensic timeline, a body begins to decompose significantly after 40 hours, releasing caustic liquids and ammonia that would blur the image and degrade the cloth. The shroud shows no signs of this biological breakdown. This creates a highly specific time window. The body was wrapped in the cloth long enough to form the bloodstains and transfer the image, but vanished before the natural process of decay could begin. Perhaps the most haunting detail lies in the bloodstains. The body did not get up and walk away. If the cloth had been unwrapped or if a body had been physically pulled out of the linen, the bloodstains would be smeared and the scabs would have ripped the fibers. So, here is the final controversial question. Do you think the AI found proof of a supernatural event that breaks the laws of physics? Or is this the most elaborate genius prank in human history that we still cannot figure out? What if we are just scratching the surface of a reality we haven't discovered yet? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring the unknown with us, smash that like button and subscribe for more videos like this.